Hello and welcome to this segment of Biscom Breakfast Bubble, where we interview opinion leaders in our society today who are making it rain in their various areas of calling. Today, I have with me in the studio an author, an activist, a journalist of great repute. He is the Oloye Lekan Alabi. He is the Ekefa of Olubadan, Ibadan land. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
Yes, your profile is one that is very interesting, and I would really love for the viewers to know more about you, not just me. I found it very interesting, very motivating,
Thank you.
especially to young ones out there. So we'll start talking about your growing up.
Thank
How
you.
was your formative years?
Thank you very much. I'm an indigenous of Ibadan, capital of Oyo State. I was born on Friday, October 27, 1950,
Okay.
which means I was 71 years old last October. I went to primary school called Seventh-day Adventist Primary School, Ekefa, Ibadan. 1958, I was class captain from primary 2 to primary 4. Schoolmate boy, primary 5, 1962, and the school prefect in my final year, 1963. From there, I went to African Church Grammar School, Apata Ganga, Ibadan, 1964. I left secondary school 1969, became a village school teacher at St. John's Anglican Primary School, Akenjo, near Arulogun, all in Ibadan. By 1972, I became the first editorial assistant of West Africa's largest educational publishing house, Oniboji Press Limited, Felele, Ibadan. The following year, I joined the services of Sketch Publishing Company Limited as a reporter, writer, reader, grade 2, and I went to the famous College of Journalism, London, Fleet Street, 1976, came back to Nigeria in 1978, and I joined Africa's first television station, which they now call NTA Ibadan Network Center Television House, Agodi, where television started in Africa on Saturday, October 31st, 1959, during the reign of Premier Obafemi Awolowo of Western Region. I left NTA Ibadan for the television service of Oyo State, TSOS, as the pioneer chairman of the NUJ chapel of the station and the first reporter to appear on that channel, which is now called PSOS TV. From there, I was seconded to the office of the governor of Oyo State, old Oyo State, President Oyo and Osun State, Chief Bolabi, as a press secretary in charge of his television matters. 1983 election, the then electoral body said Chief Bolabi lost the election, so we were off and dismissed by the MPN government that came in. I remained jobless deliberately because if you wanted to return to the service of the then Oyo State, you go and beg, prostrate. I didn't. Wonders. The military struck December 31, 1983, cleared off all the civilian governments from federal to the local government level. By February 1984, the military government now said all those who had been dismissed, transferred, should return to their offices and a proper investigation and tribunal be carried out. By February 1984, I did not only return to the TV station, the military governor of Oyo State then, now retired Major General Oloye appointed me his press secretary, and I served 2 of his military successors, making 4 governors of Oyo State, 1 civilian, 3 military, whom I served from 1983 to 1989 as press secretary. By August 1989, I was appointed the first public affairs manager of Odua Investment Company Limited, the conglomerate of the Yorubas, with international mixture of business. I retired voluntarily 1992. I retired voluntarily 2006, even though I had 6 more years to go. And I gave the reason as a good actor leaves when the duration is loudest. So I now face my traditional duties as a Ekefa, Olubadan of Ibadan land. I do what we call syndicated columns, newspapers. I am a regular analyst on radio, Space 90.1 FM, and other services. Here we are. That's me, in brief.
I must commend you, sir. You know, I did tell you that it was an interesting story, a very motivating one, but what I failed to let you know is that he's a historian. Very detailed story you have there, sir.
Thank you.
So please get your pen and paper because you're about to head on to a history class right now.
Thank you.
So thank you, sir. We are going to go into the part of you being an activist. You know, there's a lot about you writing letters, demanding for justice, and interestingly, you didn't start now. You've been doing it for quite an early age.
I started at the age of 17, 1967, as a Form 3 student of African Church Grammar School, Apata Ganga. That was the year the federal military government, headed by retired General Yakubu Gawan, clamped our dear world professor Soyinka, then Mr. Soyinka, into indefinite detention in Kaduna prison. And what was Soyinka's offense? They said he was supporting the Biafrans because the civil war had just started. So I thought to myself, is this the way to send people to detention without trial? No, it shouldn't be. So I wrote 3 letters. One to the head of state, introduced myself in the first paragraph as a Form 3 student of African Grammar School. Of course, I was a fan of Soyinka.
Okay.
Then I wrote the head of state.
You said this was at 17 years old.
1967. I was born in 1950, as I've said, so I was just 17 years old. In fact, I was 16 and a half years plus. But I wrote to the head of state, sir, I read in the Daily Times of yesterday headline, you said Mr. Soyinka will remain in prison as long as the war lasts. Sir, I don't think this is fair. I'm begging you, can you please do me 2 favors? Release Mr. Soyinka or take him to court. Second letter to Mr. Soyinka in detention, Kaduna prison. Mr. Wole Soyinka, care, the chief warder, Kaduna prison, Kaduna. First paragraph, introduction of myself. Then second paragraph, I said, sir, I am solidly behind you in your crave for human rights and freedom. Take note, you will not die in prison by the grace of God. You will come out to continue your good work. Signed, posted, Kaduna. Third one, to the editor, Daily Times. Daily Times, Kakawa Street, Lagos. Introduction, same first paragraph. Editor, I've read the front page of your newspaper yesterday where the head of state said Mr. Soyinka will remain in prison as long as the war lasts. I don't think this is fair. Take note, I've written to the head of state on behalf of Mr. Soyinka and Mr. Soyinka himself. 17-year-old boy. I was living my life. But 2 years
Very
after,
courageous.
thank God, 2 years after, 1969, Mr. Soyinka was released by the Gawan government. And Professor today, our dear beloved first Nobel laureate of Africa, he had what you can call the courtesy of acknowledging my letter formally, which he sent to me by post in school, and said, I thank you. Your letter, among others, was handed over to me on my release from prison. Second paragraph. Kindly, I appreciate your effort and prayer. Kindly see me in school. That was the School of Drama, University of Ibadan, which is now the Department of Theatre Arts, named after him in UI. The day I visited the school, they said he was out of town. But this year, I formally fulfilled the appointment, 52-year-old appointment in 2021. Remember, he invited me in 1969, but it was this year that we fulfilled the appointment in his republic, in Abeokuta.
There was such a great reunion.
Great reunion, emotional,
Wow.
yeah, and spiritual. Because I needed to, you know, it's 7 plus.
Yes.
I needed to reconnect
Yeah.
with it, and I went there with a program designed with all my writings about the fight for him. Of course, he welcomed me with open hands.
Of course, who wouldn't acknowledge such?
He even served us palm wine that was done on his farm, fresh, that Yoruba called Ogidiem.
Okay, so you did say that he acknowledged you, but you wrote to 3 different entities. You wrote to Daily
Head of
Times,
state,
you wrote to the head of state, and you wrote
the editor
to
of the Daily
Professor
Times
Shea.
that published that
Yes.
story, and then the detainee.
So did the editor acknowledge your letter?
No, then they will just put in a column letters to the editor. But remember, very sensitive. Very sensitive. Somebody accused by military government of conniving with the Biafrans. Ah, it was a case of treasonable felony. They didn't touch it.
Of course.
But the head
of state.
Oh, my letter was acknowledged by the secretary to the head of military, head of state. Acknowledged.
I find it's very interesting and inspiring that there was a direct channel of communication between citizens and head of state at the time.
As it should be in any democratic setting. Because it's not only when election is coming, 2023, it's not then that anybody who aspires to be in politics or office will start coming, beating drums and giving out 500 naira notes and not. No. Once you're in office, it's our right to ask you questions about the manifesto, the promises you made. How are you running our budget? But in Africa, I'm sorry, the reverse is the case.
Yes, that should be the case, but we all know that is not the case in Nigeria. It used to be
in
the
Africa.
case. In Africa, it used to be the case because for a 17-year-old, a 16 and a half, 16 plus year old to be able to reach out to the head of state and let us acknowledge. Now what people do most times is open letter, just so they ensure it gets to the person it's addressed to.
I was invited about 4 years ago to the commissioning ceremony of a postal agency in Ibadan, Chira Old School area, by the night post, and I told them this story, and I said how I would have loved the Postmaster General of Nigeria to be postal agency, but for the fact that I wanted to prove to the world that Nigeria once worked on law and order and on merit. You can imagine, letter posted at the Ojaba post office, reaching the destination of the head of state. And as I said, and I always say, I will say it here now, one didn't just start. My paternal grandmother, Mama Simawu Odola Alabi, was the woman leader of NCNC under Adogo Kadilabu in Ibadan. So I grew up hearing, noticing what they call civil rights. There must be justice, equity. Before this cry for unity and progress, foundation should be equity, whereby we are all equal. There is no superior tribe or race anywhere in the world, more so in this country, and there must be justice.
Great that you mentioned that, because I was going to ask if it was the norm at the time. Maybe you saw your fellow citizens sending letters, so you decided to do the same.
I told you, Professor Shenka had been my hero.
Yes.
Since I started knowing my right from my left, because he won the independence drama competition organized by Shell Oil Company. So they produced one fat magazine book, and I saw his picture. I fancied him, the hairstyle, more so that he won the drama competition, because my original intention was to go and read English language in the university and be like him. But the other one took over. Journalism.
Quest to find out. It's also trying to get justice.
It's all about fighting for the common rights of all, and in particular, if you see anybody who is being maltreated, cheated, you should fight for him or her. Yeah.
So what would you say about the media space of this generation? Do you think the media industry are doing a lot as it used to be in terms of fighting for justice?
Thank you. In the days of our seniors, most of whom are dead, may their souls continue to rest in peace. But those of them who are still living, one of them is Aremo Olusegun Oshoba, a former two-time governor of Ogun State.
Paid a tribute to not long ago.
Thank you. They work with tears, blood, and grit. Grit. Today, the average Nigerian journalist, as in all parts of the world, they are aided by technology. You could send your report live on the spot.
Yes.
I know that. Then,
new media.
Then it was manual. We were sending our reports by either public driver, tape, when we covered long distances to the Ibadan office of NTV that I worked, and then Sketch Publishing Company Limited. It was manual. Telephone was one of the best tools. But today, technology. And I wish our dear juniors not only having good education, but possessing that thing they call creativity. Because you would think we were writing exams in our days. I will cover my story so that you don't see my story. But today they syndicate. One group will go to commissioning, another group will go to AGM, and they will be exchanging, they will send WhatsApp. Some of them get so lazy, not a word will be edited or transferred or changed from the one they got from his colleagues. So Nigerians now mock MOCK. They say buy one Nigerian newspaper and you have bought all. Headlines, content, and all that. So with this wide open space, I wish the average Nigerian would not only get educated but be different. Do it. And the employers, I wish they would pay us at when due. When we were working, our salaries were paid before the 26th of every month, including what you call benefits, claims, and all that. And for a reporter, it was a car, a crew, car, cameraman, or maybe assistant cameraman or copper, and the reporter in a car, air conditioned, and we were the envy of other media houses that didn't have, and they will get annoyed because those who have summoned press conferences will say, on television day, because our station was the only one.
Okay.
There was no TV, there was no GTV, there was no TSOS, there was no CNN, there was no Al Jazeera. If you wanted to watch authentic news, you must watch the offshoot of Africa's first television station, WNTV, which later became NTV, then NTA, but today Ibadan Network Center, mother of several state radio stations and television. We are giving you necessary tools, freedom to operate, and salaries were paid. So why would I wait for your brand envelope? No, we are very proud, not arrogant or haughty. We are very proud that you could not influence my report.
Great advice from you, sir.
Thank you.
So let's head on to you being a traditional aristocrat. Yeah, the Ekefa Olubadan.
In the clean sense, aristocrat. Clean sense.
Okay.
I am not the aristo that will go and disrupt campuses.
Okay, noted, sir.
Thank you.
So tell us how it's like for you. What's the significance of your title, the Ekefa Olubadan of Ibadan?
Thank you very much. In my family, I am the fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4 traditional chief. Ile Kenya Jengbe, SW1/131. We are the owner and keeper of one of the 5 leading masquerades in Ibadan, called Iporiku. As I told you, my progeny, my maternal grandmother, political activist, because she also colluded or collaborated with late Mama Funmilayo Ransome Kuti when they formed the Majobaje Mabolaje Alliance.
Okay.
So it was the prayer that I will follow my ancestors in the traditional chieftaincy line, and I was first of all made the head of the family, Mogaji, November 30, 1994. I was Mogaji in that big land, Africa's, the possessor of many forts of Africa, Ibadan, for 8 good years. 8 good years I was Mogaji. Despite the fact of being press secretary to 4 governors, 1 civilian, 3 military, Akogun, Lalupon, and all that, media backed and all that. But traditionally, I was promoted December 12, 2002 by the late Olubadan, Yunusa Bankole Oladaja, Ogundepo Arapasowu 1, to the first step in the Balogun line, Jagun. And Ibadan is a Raika. It's not by force, it's not by suppression, nor oppression, it's a matter of destiny. Because if there's no vacancy, you can't move up. And the natural vacancy will occur when the seniors at the top pass away.
Yes.
So I got promoted Jagun. By the time I wanted to leave Odua voluntarily, because when I left Odua, I gave the immediate past GMT, Dr. Adebayo Jimoh, my letter, voluntary withdrawal. He didn't accept. He summoned an executive director's emergency meeting the following day to ask me, why did I want to leave? Well, I told him, a good actor leaves when the ovation is loudest. 2, my traditional responsibility were increasing. Increasing. So let me face it.
Yeah.
Here we are today.
Okay. Tell us about Ibadan, because I've had Ibadan in almost all the discussion. You grew up in Ibadan. Yeah,
No, tell our viewers what you heard about Ibadan.
Okay, so I know that Ibadan is the home of good food, yam. I used to follow my mom to Ibadan when she would buy yam. She's a caterer, so she would go to Ibadan, buy yam, buy different.
Thank you very much.
attires.
The present Ibadan land, which stretches from the boundary between Oyo and Ogun states, the town called Bakatari, and stretches through Omeadio, Kila, Apata Ganga, Dugbe, Amunigun, Bere, Oje, Iwo Road to Asejire Dam, which is boundary between Oyo and Osun states. Such a vast land with economic landmarks, schools, universities, and co. It has gone beyond a town. Ibadan is larger than some states in Africa.
Yes.
And it's the third Ibadan. So, Ibadan in 1840 acted on the instructions of Iba Oluyode, the king of the town, to go and defend Yoruba land in Osogbo, 1840, because the jihadists, Fulani jihadists and their Ilorin conspirators, they took Ilorin from Yoruba and turned into a Fulani emirate.
Yeah.
Ibadan army went to confront them and drove them far beyond the walls of Ofa. And that's how Ibadan army saved Yoruba land from ever being referred to as the Fulanis do now, referring to certain parts of Nigeria and other as their conquered land. Never. It was the Ibadan army that gave the Yoruba the pride till today. That's Ibadan. And when the colonialists came, they made it the capital of Western region. Even though one racist, what they call them now, deputy colonial master had taken the headquarters to Oyo town, but another one person, they call it him, Captain Bauer, British, returned the administrative headquarters to Ibadan, and Ibadan has remained the capital of Western region, Western state, old Oyo state, present Oyo state. And it of course houses the first university in this country, University of Ibadan, 1948, the first television in Africa, December 31, 1959, the first commercial radio station in Africa, WMBS, the tallest building, Cocoa House, and several firsts. Ibadan had the first dual carriageway in Nigeria, opened by Queen Elizabeth II in 1956 during her visit, and that is the long Queen Elizabeth Road from Gate. It stretches through Total Garden, Mokola to Mokola and about.
I know there's a saying that Ibadan indigents are very smart. Now, if you've ever doubted this saying, I hope he's been able to clear your doubt.
With empirical facts.
Yes, Tito, he's a historian. A lot of figures that you've just called out just within this short interview, this short space, is something somebody could read up for years to come and still not get it right.
Thank you.
So it's a lot of accolades on
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
And before we leave, of course, we'll also talk about, if you could just say a little bit about the insecurity of the country. Do you have some tips or?
Insecurity is general all over the world. Look at the Middle East. Look at many parts of the country, of the world, Africa, and the other continents. Life is now almost a penny. Values, appreciation. But coming home to our country, the government, the incumbent government, has admitted that they will need either internal and external assistance to be able to overcome banditry, kidnapping. Look at the recent case where these bandits, broad daylight, 4:30 p.m., went on Kaduna Abuja Road and let me use the word, captured many citizens. They even killed, as I read in the news, one 2023 gubernatorial aspirant in one of the northern states. So it has become brazen. When we were young in the newsroom, and all these West African countries or Central African countries committed something that is less worse off than Nigeria today. Our bosses in the newsroom, editor of your place and laugh. It can never happen here. It can only happen in the Banana Republic. They will be turning their graves. Their life has become so cheap in this country that bandits now negotiate the list of victims that have been kidnapped. Broad daylight. They said they are now negotiating for foodstuffs from families of their victims. It's bad. It has never been this bad. So government must wake up. And one of the best way I think they can solve the problem is to let the states have their own police forces, state community police, as it is done all over the world. Then you are going to have the federal police. But no stranger, sorry to use that word, will know an area better than the indigenous. So when you now post DPOs who are strangers, they wouldn't know the citizens, the families, and the records of individuals as much as the indigene of such areas. So state police. Then the federal and state police, thank God there is the network now, state networks in the south, in the west, in the north. Here we call them Amotekun, that work in hand with the federal and state and security agencies to ensure that life is again safe. You could walk, sleep with your two eyes closed. But they need better remunerations, salaries that will be regular and cover their needs too, because their children too want to go to early schools. So for them to dress well, keep themselves, and government must give them the tools to work with, arms and ammunition, and be steps ahead of the bandits. There was a case of a retired major general who said they were being given obsolete equipment by the federal government to face modern day firepower of bandits. So we must take care of all those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the tips. And just before we leave, you've mentioned Odua Investment Company Limited. It's something you've talked about, not in this interview, but I've been opportune to hear you talk about it.
Thank you.
And of course, there's a book that says a lot, which you presented to Aronika from Yoruba Land. Could you tell us a bit about it?
Thank you very much. Odua Investment Company Limited, conglomerate owned by the 6 Yoruba states of Oyo, Ondo, Ogun, Ekiti, Osun, and Lagos. Started off in 1959 under Premier Obafemi Awolowo as the Western Nigerian Development and Finance Corporation, and they had business partnership with the British, Canadians. That's why you had the West African Poland Cement, Nigerite, Guinness, and so forth. And in 1976, he changed his name to Investment and Industrial Credit Corporation, IICC. And even when they were WNDC, they had the sport football arm called WNDC Shooting Stars, which won the Challenge Cup. Later ICC Shooting Stars, where you had the Jofayemi, Segun Odegbami, Mudalawa, the Johnsons. So in 1976, when Western State was broken into 3 states, Oyo, Ondo, and Ogun, the military governors, General Jemi Bowon, Brigadier Seidu Balogun, Air Force Itaipeme, decided that rather than break the business empire of the Yoruba into access, you take this, you take that, they said let there exist a conglomerate which will be business oriented called Odua Investment Company Limited in 1976. We started business October 1, 1976. So this year, Odua Investment Company Limited celebrated the 45th anniversary of our funding
Okay.
with a lecture given at the Lagos Airport Hotel. And in the course of the remarks and all that, only Chief Obafemi Awolowo, whose government started WNDC, got mentioned passing. They didn't mention his successor, Chief Samuel Ladoke Akintola Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò, GCON, whose government also continued the policy of the action group before there was a division internal, and action group went this way. Akintola formed his own government. Nigerian National Democratic Party (NNDP), derisively called Demo, Egbe Demo, Elomo Kulumbu, until the army came, intervened in Nigeria, and assassinated Premier Ladoke Akintola January 15, 1966. So the company continued. It fell, it rose, it fell, it rose. The history you just mentioned came about in June 1990. Remember, the late Major Gideon Oka attempted, almost toppled the federal military government of self-styled President, retired General Ibrahim Babangida, April 22, 1990.
Okay.
By June, Babangida panicked and issued a decree that any tribal, primordial financial platform that allowed for meetings of military governors, administrators, civil servants, and police servants dissolved immediately. They were referring to Obia Investment Company Limited and the New Nigeria Development Corporation (NNDC), which belonged to the North. The East had lost its own Eastern Nigeria Development Corporation shortly before the war and after the war. So, typical of the Yorubas, they complied with Babangida's directive and established what they called Assets and Liabilities Sharing Committee, headed by the late, he later became Oba, but then it was Prince Oladele Olashori was the chairman, and they started dissolving. Even they invited members of the committee to neighboring countries such as Togo and Benin Republic. So we made indiscreet investigation to the north. Are you complying, or have you complied with Babangida's dissolution? They said, no, we don't act on newspaper report. What did I do? I went on my own to visit Bashoron MKO Abiola, who everybody knew was a party of Babangida. That day, Abiola had given instruction in his home that he didn't want to see any visitor, and even internal, they shouldn't pass any call to him in his home. But I got there that day unaware of that law. Anyway, by 8 p.m., I managed to get to him in his room through the intercom, because Abiola was my role model and mentor. But he will now say, Lekan, my friend from Ibadan. And I said, excuse me, sir, how can I be your friend? But thank God, I got through with documents, the broadcast, the technical, what do you call them, the clinical committee, and everything. Premier Hotel was gone for 50 million naira. Abiola saw me at 12:20. People who are deep will know why, because that day he said he didn't want to see anyone. So he made sure the day had passed. 12:20 a.m. He now met me. Yoruba will say, Odoju Ala, come on, meet him. I explained everything to him, and he started work. Started calling Babangida, who had changed the security network since the Okaku. So he said this he couldn't reach him because it was the ADC that Abiola first got. Eventually, Abiola made contact. By 5:20 a.m., I must not claim this, I must say it as it happened. He now said I should please excuse him because he had got through to Babangida. But by 6:35 in the dawn, he came out of the passage, the sitting room upstairs. I had gone to the one downstairs. I said, Lekan, sir, come up. I don't care. Go and tell our people, nothing can move Okebani. Nothing can move Olumo. Odua remains intact. But for God Almighty, my humble action and Abiola's intervention, the Odua Investment Company Limited was done. Please out by the one today. Thank God. Still surviving.
Still surviving.
Yes.
Such a great man we have here, and I know you cannot say less. I know you've gotten extra sheets within the course of this interview, and there's a lot more about him. We would have gone on and on, but if you want to know more about him and all he's achieved and in his lifespan. You could get it from his profile. Just read up his profile. And just from this interview, I am reiterating that we still need history incorporated in our curriculum, you know. And if you're just like me, who wasn't opportune to go through the history classes, you could also read up about this great man we have here. He's Oloye Lekan Alabi, Ekefa, Olubadan of Ibadan land. Just his profile could tell you a lot more about yourself, especially if you're from the Yoruba land, that you probably
and the first cultural ambassador of the National Museum and Monument, Ilefe.
A lot. He's a columnist, he's an author, he's a journalist, he's a lot. Just get to know about him and make your life better.
And he's an humble man. Humble.
Yes, he is. So get to know about him, make your life a lot better, get inspired. No matter the age you are, 17, 16, 15, you could also stand up for what is right. Thank you for staying tuned to this segment of Biscom Breakfast Bubble. I know you learned a lot. I am Agape Okemiri. Over to the next.